Welcome back to the Super NPC Games Club here over at patreon.com/Super NPC Radio. We're back, folks. Season... Oh, I should have looked up what number season this is. Do you know, Kanzi?
Yeah, so if we are counting, the adjusted format that we've been doing.
Adjusted format seasons, yeah.
So this is season 7.
Season 7! Oh, no! The bags just formed under my eyes as I took that in. We are covering a brand new game. I am so flippin' excited to get into it. My name is Jeremy Schmidt. I'll be the host for today's episode. We're covering Hollow Knight, folks. That's right. You voted on it. We're playing it. I got to introduce this panel. Here we got, of course, the great Connor McCabe with us.
I'm just a little stinky bug.
Yeah. Yeah. We have the great Nick Costanza.
Hello, Tarnished. You are maidenless.
Ooh, cool. We have, of course, Michael McCollar.
This city is infested with zombies.
And last but not least, July Diaz.
Gotta go fast.
Okay, great. Perfect. We also have Roxy Polk and Tyler Schnupp, who will be joining us for some parts of this Games Club season. They're not going to be with us for the first 2 episodes, but...
Well, some might say they might appear later in these episodes.
Okay, you might say that, and I'll be looking forward to learning what that means. So we have just finished the BioShock Games Club. Feel free to go back, check all that out. Connor, I think it was you that submitted the new indie games, indie darlings, right? As the category to vote on.
Yeah, every quarter over on the Patreon, if especially if you're listening in the future and you're not a subscriber, we the panel pick a sort of category or a theme for the upcoming Games Club. We nominate 4 to 5-ish games, and then the patrons vote. I came up with the Indie Darlings theme, I guess, and the patrons voted for Hollow Knight. So
yes, and it was neck and neck for a while with Disco Elysium, which is we got to keep that in mind.
I really think it was like the last hour. Hollow Knight went ahead, and that was it.
Yeah,
it was Hollow Knight, Disco Elysium, and then just a bunch of Richard Linklater movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do those get in there, by the way?
They're indie darlings, I guess.
That is true. Yeah. Well, there's a lot to talk about with this game today. We're going to be covering just so you, the audience, knows, and just so that the panel remembers, we're going to be covering the opening, King's Pass, Dirt Mouth, and the Forgotten Crossroads. That doesn't really mean anything to anybody, I don't think, listening. It's hard to keep a lot of these terms and proper nouns straight in your brain as you're going through this, but it basically just means we're going to go...
That's true for life, too.
And it's also true for life. And I'd like to end there. Okay, so let's go...
shortest episode ever?
Let's go around the horn here and talk a little bit about our experiences with Hollow Knight, which, as Wikipedia states, it is a 2017 Metroidvania video game developed and published by independent developer Team Cherry.
I have a question. Sorry, Connor can talk first.
No.
Nick,
I want this question to get out
please.
there now.
Am I crazy? I don't think I invented this term, but is there such a term as a Soulsvania? As in Dark Souls? Because that's what this feels like a little bit to me.
And Transylvania?
Having to go back and get your soul and stuff.
And this is a great question. I'm glad you're at. I think we should probably try to solve this today. What the hell is a Metroidvania versus Souls like?
And then we can answer Transylvania to fulfill July's question too.
Yeah, because I'm really confused about that part of it.
I'm going to say something that sounds sarcastic, but is very true. I love sussing out the slight differences between genres. It is one of my favorite things to do. I'm happy to do it. I could almost see it being like a Metroidvania with Souls-like elements. However, there's a lot of Souls stuff going on in Hollow Knight that does make me feel like if there were more games just like this, and I can't really think of many that are, but maybe you guys can. I don't know if it's its own genre necessarily, but it's got a lot of Dark Souls influence for sure.
I think I could probably clear up July's question with a statement, if that's all right.
Perfect.
Okay.
I want to double jump.
Love it.
Kind of said double jump, didn't I?
Double jump.
And it works.
Yeah.
I feel like a vampire
I mean-
would say it like that.
I think so. On this subject, yeah, like I just played McCollar, Prince of Persia, not the Sands of Time, the Lost Crown, which came out earlier this year, another Metroidvania, which to sort of break down that term a little further, I would describe in its more simple terms as like an action exploration based game. Sometimes those are platformers like the ones we're playing today, 2D side-scrolling platformer. I think you could also classify like your Resident Evils sometimes like a Metroidvania, or even I would even go as far to say some of the Metal Gear Solid games, like maybe the first one you could even consider sort of Metroidvania. Either way, you know.
Okay, Connor's drunk. Connor is hammered right now. He's saying all kinds of stuff he doesn't mean.
Folks, it's 10:14 a.m. and I'm just lost in the sauce. But I would, it can kind of be broad. I think of it as action, exploration focused games. Oh, nice. July did something that we'll talk about. Maybe is it next episode?
No, later. Yeah. Later.
Okay, cool. And yeah, this game is so different than the way that you are not just necessarily punished in The Lost Crown, even, which has a lot of similarities to this with its like locomotion and great combat and difficult fights with your ability gaining. But yeah, this feels a little more closer to what you were saying, McCall, or Nick brought up, a sort of Soulsvania like. It's got just elements from different trees, it feels like.
Yeah. I played a bunch of that Prince of Persia game as well, and I think Prince of Persia, if this was its own genre, if Hollow Knight was its own genre, Prince of Persia is in that genre. You know, it's like I think the what Metroidvania means to me is like you have to get upgrades to progress the map. That's like the basic thing you need. Does that feel right to everybody?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The exploration is gated by abilities. A lot of the time, I'll say.
Not necessarily keys. That's the other way you're kept from things. Yeah.
It does feel like the tantalizing part of this genre that Hollow Knight does so well is like show you a thing and you know I'm coming back here. And I'm going to have a missile to blow through it. And then I can progress. And I'm going to love it.
Yeah. The souls of it all does feel a lot more tethered to like the combat and the mechanics of death and coming back and finding your souls. I think there's literally things called souls in this. So that, but it's in Dark Souls, you know, it's not usually abilities that gate keeps you from other things. So it's kind of its own thing. Yeah. This feels like though tonally feels like it is desperately trying to ride the coattails of the Souls games. I think in a kind of a cute and fun way. Like this is kind of a cute and fun adaptation, but we didn't just wake up this morning and start playing this game. No, we have a long storied history, each and every one of us. Connor McCabe, let's start with you.
So I first tried this game when we were all just trying stuff out, you know, back, you remember those days of the 60s?
Yeah, brother.
This was definitely a game where in the throes of 2020, back when there was a whole thing called PlayStation Now, which was the PlayStation streaming service where you could stream games for a totally separate package away from PlayStation Plus. I barely used it. Funny enough, I actually used that to try BioShock, our last Games Club game, for the first time. I remember turning this on at some point in 2020. I think I played about a half hour of it, was like intrigued. And once I hit the first enemy that just like wrecked me, I think I just turned it off and went and did something else. And that my friends, is my history up until this Games Club with Hollow Knight.
Wow.
Love it. Little pandemic baby.
Truly the half hour of the million-hour pandemic. So a
Yeah.
blip on the radar.
Nick Costanza.
I'm going to drop a real hot take right now.
Okay.
I don't love this genre.
Whoa.
That sucks because this is a hot genre right
I
now.
know.
People are making games like crazy for it.
Here's the thing. I'm willing to be open-minded. I'm enjoying what I've played so far. I'll say that. But it's weird because I've always considered myself a Metroid fan, but when I think about the games I like, it was way more Metroid Prime than the original series, with Metroid Fusion really being the sole exception there. And that I felt
Pun
like was
intended?
even pun intended. That game I feel like has less elements of the Metroidvania.
It's
in itself.
absolutely Metroid Fusion is the most linear Metroid.
Mm-hmm. So this style, all the backtracking and stuff, generally not my favorite thing. I see how Resident Evil 2 remake does have elements of this though, because you do kind of have to keep going back and stuff. It's the backtracking that really drives me crazy a lot of the time. But I like the gameplay in this. And for the record, I never played this game before this Games Club. So I'm excited. I'm open-minded. I'm here to learn. Will it beat Sonic Adventure? Probably not.
Probably
but we'll
not.
see.
Not much can.
And it's going to be hard not to compare it to that, Nick, because that was the third quarter Games Club of last year. So
Yeah.
good luck, buddy.
And Sonic Adventure, I would argue, is probably one of the first Metroidvanias, if you think about it.
Probably.
Because
And
it
it
was
was
these
almost
other
the last
characters that
Metroidvania.
you had to get around, like.
Oh,
Mhm.
Jeremy,
Any-
you gotta figure
anyway.
it out.
I guess you can backtrack through that too.
I guess it is kind of a Souls-like. You
Yeah.
get rings. Nick, I want you to keep throughout this season, keep talking about all the things that you're finding bothersome about it. But also, if you land on anything you are liking about it as we're going, I'm going to be so curious to see what those things are. Because I think with a game like Hollow Knight, there's a lot going on. There's a lot to like, a lot to maybe not like. So I'll be very
can't
curious. Yeah.
Just can't wait to hear your breakthroughs, Nick. Like you're gonna show up one week and you'll be like, guys, I get it. I get it now, and I love
He's
it.
a bug.
Yeah.
Or the other option is Nick just might stop coming to these recordings.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to go. I'll see you guys later.
Well, with it, this is going to be, I think, could be an interesting discussion to have throughout this series. It kind of is reminiscent of, when you want someone in your life to like a movie you like or like a game that you really enjoy, and you can only sort of like you can only lead a Nick to water. The Nick's got to enjoy the flavor and the little textures of the critters in that water. But I think throughout, Nick, if you're open to like, hey, try this thing out, see if it like helps your experience, then I think a few of us might lob some suggestions your way.
know
Yeah,
what?
it's
I'll take them.
All right.
Michael McCollar, what's your history with Hollow Knight?
I know this game launched on PC initially and was like ready for Switch before it hit in 2018 or 19 or whenever it came out. So I had heard about it and people were talking about it on like podcasts I was listening to. So like the day it hit Switch, I downloaded and devoured it, played through the whole thing, got very, I don't know that I 100%ed it, but I came close. But now it's in that space for me where I played it so long ago that I don't remember anything specific, but everything, like, first of all, just picking it up, the combat, I immediately remembered. It was like muscle memory. So that was delightful. And then every boss, I was like, oh yeah, I remember fighting this and it was fun. I couldn't be more excited. I just played through Super Metroid and Metroid Zero Mission and Metroid Fusion. I've been on such a Metroid kick. This is the perfect follow-up. I love this game. This is like one of my 35 second favorite games of all time.
Wow.
Oh,
That rocks. July Diaz, lay it on us.
yeah. So I don't know when this is coming out, but I briefly
Friday.
talked about it. Okay, so I briefly talked about this on your pod recently, but I must have picked this game up on Switch shortly after it was put on Switch, and I had a memory of playing a lot of it and feeling like, oh, I really sunk a lot of time in this and saw a lot of the game. And when I went back to see my old save, I only played 4 hours of it and was only in the first area.
Like
So I
me
must-
with Mass Effect.
Yeah, so I must have had a similar experience to you, Connor, of like getting to a point where I was like, I'll come back to this, and I just
Yeah.
never did, even though I did enjoy my time with it. And I do like Metroidvania games to a certain extent. The backtracking of it all does get a little tedious, but once I'm in it, I'm in it. So I felt like there are times with this game, the amount that we played for these records, it was kind of a challenging time to put it down, I'll say.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that. You just kind of reminded me of
You're
something that
welcome.
I probably should have set up top too.
Mhm.
Like in terms of programming for this season, this is nothing short of a fucking nightmare. So this game, just the way that the way that progression works, the way that you're supposed to go through this game, and the amount of options you have to go this way, to go that way at different points, makes this game a little bit hard to tell like a person playing it, hey, go here, do this. You're going to have to kind of bump around in the night, try to poke around the edges of the map. You're going to be doing all that. And that's the most satisfying way to play. By virtue of even looking at the roadmap, it's kind of a spoiler for the game, if any, you know what I mean? But it needs to happen. So basically, I will be continuing to sort of build out the program of this show as we go for folks. That hopefully people will find it helpful. I've basically broken it up into like bosses you'll fight and things you'll get, because areas, like everyone's been kind of talking about, you'll be backtracking through a lot. So it's not like you go through the fungal waste one time. No, you'll be back there again and maybe a third time. Anyways, Connor.
Yeah, I was going to say, first of all, thank you for taking on this Herculean task, Jeremy. I really appreciate it. I know there's no perfect way to do it, but truly, thank you so much. It's so helpful. For those of you who are current patrons following along as we're going through this Games Club, you're going to see, because we only have, the first 3 episodes programmed at the time of this recording, as Jeremy continues to upgrade our roadmap, I will be updating the Patreon post and posting to Discord in the Hollow Knight Games Club channel. So also, if you're a patron who's not in the Discord, you got a link in your DMs from us. If it expired, hit me up, message us on Patreon. But we'll continue to update the roadmap so that you know generally what to expect to going into each episode. Or if you're just going to play through this game and listen along, then do that too. But thank you, Jeremy.
What hosts these guys are. Other gaming
Hey.
podcasts wouldn't do that, huh?
No way. Other gaming podcasts don't even play games. You know what I
Dang.
mean?
Tell
Too
your
busy
friends.
starting beefs with their other podcasts.
That's all they do is beef.
I hate
a
that about other podcasts. They
We've
always
never
beef with
done
other
that.
podcasts.
no one on this show has ever beefed with another
I don't even
podcast.
know what beef is.
Okay, my history with Hollow Knight
I'm a
is
vegetarian,
my
so I
history with
wouldn't even know how to get near beef.
You wouldn't know how to get near it.
I wouldn't know.
how to
That's-
get here.
I think vegetarians know they choose not to.
yeah.
Well,
No one's a
special
vegetarian
time.
because they forgot how to access beef.
Actively taking the agency away from vegetarians.
I'm a special breed.
All vegetarians are really hungry for beef, but they can't find it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, my history with Hollow Knight is a lot similar to McCollar's, almost identical. I think it's like the same thing. We must have been playing it when we lived together in the same house.
That sounds right.
Yeah, because if when it launched for Switch anyway, I think
Back to back.
I got two. Yeah, I got two, with mirrors though, so we
Yeah.
can see each. That's
That's why I play Battleship.
I got it in like 2018. I think this is maybe PC 2017, Switch 2018. That feels right to me.
I just looked. Apparently, it came out on Switch in 2017.
Oh, great. great. And it might have taken me a second to get to it. Like maybe it wasn't like right away, but anyways, as soon as I found it, I devoured this whole thing up, gobbled it up, loved it. Have never 100%ed it. I don't think a single person on this planet has ever 100%ed this game. It is
Wow.
I did.
so hard that there are things that happen at the end of this game that will make your skin crawl. They're so hard. But yeah, I loved it. I loved it so much that at one point my girlfriend at the time, now wife, was like, "Oh, we should get like some Hollow Knight art, like hang that up around the." Yeah, it was like, I was like, yeah, we should. Like, I was like seriously considering like getting like a framed picture of this game for the wall because I really loved the art, but I also
Of
just
the
loved
crying
it so
worm.
much. Crying worm would have been good. The Groose Mother would be good. Anybody. But I also really, I mean, this genre really speaks to me specifically. Like, I love Souls games so much. I love Metroidvanias so much. I love hard as nails 2D platformers so much. This even has like remnants of Mega Man X in it. It's got a lot of great throwbacks to a lot of great genres. Let's get into a little bit about some table setting for the game. So, if we were to describe sort of the vibe, not so much the genre, but the vibe, what would we say the vibe is? Let's give this game a vibe check.
Can I say I it's a little like early Sopranos, where Tony says you ever feel like you get into something right at the end?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, fuck yeah. That is right. Yeah.
From the pilot.
And that's about the atmosphere of the game.
It's about the atmosphere.
Okay.
That is true. Yeah, it does feel like something bad has happened.
Sure.
This town has crumbled. Society's over, and everyone's kind of sad about it, but they're still there. And they're still, it's ghost-like. It feels like there's a lot of ghosts in this town.
The elder bugs are hanging in front of the pork store, the meat market.
And they're talking about Pokemon cards and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. It's like there's like a bit of a desolation thing has happened. And I would say beyond that, especially in these early hours, everyone you meet feels very suspect. So there's like a mystery element to what's going on, but there's also almost like a suspicious sort of paranoia happening.
And this was before sus was a thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like
This
they
game
didn't even know how to describe it before.
Yeah.
very
I
much
struggled
credited
just
with
now.
I have two comparison points that are not ironic. This game reminds me of Undertale, which is one that I played recently. I was kind of pulling for it behind the
Yeah, it was
sidelines.
on the list. You could have voted for it.
Yeah, but I don't put my finger on the scale anymore.
Not you. I meant you, the listener.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a good podcast host, not like some of these other freaks on other networks.
Never had beef.
Huh.
But it kind of reminds me of that, just in that there's sort of this general dreary tone. And similarly, I was reminded of an old indie game called Limbo. Y'all remember Limbo?
How low can you go?
Yeah, so it was actually different than that concept of Limbo.
Okay.
You're like a little dead kid or something, but it has a lot of black and white in it. It's cool.
Yes. Yeah, that is I think the comparison's very clear with that. Yeah, absolutely. It's like this has a very desaturated, almost black and white look. And then suddenly you'll be in a place with color and it really pops off. So it's like it's got a fun art style, fun art direction.
I'm going to say something about this game and compare it to some other games that I haven't really finished, but like, so I could be wrong about this. This game has this this tone to it. Like, it takes itself seriously. Like, the art is pretty cute. It's like hand drawn. It's beautiful. And so there is this cartooniness to its look, but its dialogue is never cartoony. It's like all these characters in this are taking it so seriously. And I think that's kind of what sells this game's atmosphere for me versus some of these other indie Metroidvania stuff that have come across. And the games that come to mind are like Owlboy and Iconoclast, which are like from this almost this class, this graduating class of Metroidvanias from 2018-ish. And I don't know. I think this game is so smart and cool and like has lasted and is as adored because it's not winking. It feels like there are no winks in this game. It's dreary, it's serious. What's happened here is horrifying. And there's like this HP Lovecraftian, like the elders are speaking to us kind of vibe to it that like is like rock solid in its tone. And it's like so confident in its storytelling.
I think I get what you mean when you say that. This is a thing that comes up with superhero movies a lot, especially when people compare like DC to Marvel. DC fans will always try to defend their movies that are very dour and often they're bad, right? But what they do or don't do that Marvel has the opposite issue of is that the DC movies don't really sell themselves out that much, whereas Marvel often has like, isn't it weird that we're all Hollow Knights? And I think what you're getting at is like, it doesn't sell itself out, even though the tone and style is kind of cartoony. There's a reverence for the material contained within.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there. Connor, go please.
I was going to say, I think too, the thing that, outside of some of the other stuff that made first impressions on me at the opening of the game, when it comes to the vibe and sort of, I guess, atmosphere is maybe what we're talking a little bit about too, but mostly vibe, is that there's a lot of uncertainty. I feel like in so many games, I continue to compare this to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, but even though you don't know the mystery of that game and the twists that are going to come, you do know generally who your character is, you know what group you're a part of, and you know what you're at least setting out to initially start to do. This is one of those games where when you kick things off, I don't know what the hell's going on here. I don't know who to trust. I don't know who I am. I don't know what the history of this sort of this world with all this aftermath that we're sort of wading into I don't know what has happened here. So much uncertainty. And that's, I think, where my brain is still at, 2 episodes in as we're preparing to record 2 today. A lot of uncertainty. And I am so often like, don't know how to feel about how I'm even going through this world sometimes. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I would also add to that is like, you're not even sure in this game, like, am I the hero? I think that's another important aspect to what's going on is like, you don't know who you are either. So you can't really be sure of anything that's happening. This is a completely all of this is borrowed directly from Dark Souls. Like the Lovecraftian nature of everything that's going on, the way that everyone's speaking to you, the giving you no handholds, giving you no direction in what to do. And it really, really works. And something that I think people get maybe one way that this game can be misunderstood is because of its presumably dour tone, I think people assume that this game's not like funny, but it's actually like really, really funny.
Yeah.
And can be quite lighthearted and can really play on your emotional heartstrings, like you're going to grow to love certain characters and maybe those characters make it to the end. Maybe they don't. Maybe they betray you, or maybe someone you previously thought was shitty turns out to be great. There are lots of zigs and zags throughout this game. And if it felt like we were talking about the vibe too much, this game is kind of a lot vibes. It's vibes. Like it's kind of worth talking about, and we'll talk about it more as we go through. But let's move on to gameplay for a little bit. So, McCullough, when you were talking about how the mechanics of this game just immediately like came back into view for you. I found that to be true for me too, specifically with the Scrooge McDucking of it, where you're like have to Scrooge McDuck your way across stuff because you're hitting it with your nail and getting across those spikes. Yeah, this is a really tough 2D platformer in a lot of ways, but it's also like a just like a 2D action adventure in the way that you pursue combat, with a in this case it's a nail, not a sword, but it functions like a sword. How else would you guys describe like the gameplay of Hollow Knight outside of the genre being?
There's a lot of platforming. I love that's another like classic Metroidvania trope is these long, tall areas where you're hopping up platforms and there's bugs crawling around them in a circle. There's a lot of puzzles, almost like locomotion puzzles. Like you're talking about the Scrooge McDucking of it. There's a lot of ledges that are just too far to get to, and you'll either like I think there are ways to sequence break this game. I'm again talking out of turn. I don't actually know, but like where you can find stuff earlier than you're supposed to. The game will teach you how to Scrooge McDuck across spikes, but if you've known to do that, you've known there are areas you could get to earlier.
Wow,
that's how I died a lot in the beginning. I was like trying to do stuff I wasn't good enough to do yet.
Yes,
yeah. It's like you're not quite sure, so you're going to try it over and over and over again. Just on like a practical level, there's you are this little bug, an insectoid silent protagonist called the Knight who explores an underground fallen kingdom called the Hollow Nest. Defeated enemies
That's her full name?
Yeah.
Wow.
Call me Mr. Hollow Nest. Defeated enemies drop the currency called Geo, which is this game's sort of equivalent to souls. Even though souls is a different thing in this game, Geo is sort of the thing that you'll lose when you die and then have to kind of find your way back to on the map. Unlike the Souls games, like you can ditch your previous souls that you died with and just go do something else if you want. In this game, I feel like you have to go find your dead body because there's something called a shade there that you have to beat, and then it makes your soul collector thing whole again. It's cracked until you go find it.
I actually really enjoy this element of it. You essentially have to fight a shadow version of yourself to recollect your soul. Is it your soul? I'm getting confused on the terminology already. What's soul and what's not soul?
You get your money back, your Geo.
Yeah.
But it does like you have a resource of soul that is like I always call it my juice. You got a bunch of juice for a hit it. You get you fill up your juice meter by hitting enemies and then spend it either to heal or to fire missiles. Like your health and missiles are linked. It eliminates that Metroid problem of just like you're trying to fill up your missiles, but you're just getting health drops from bad guys.
Right. Yeah.
So many things in this game are so fucking smart. That's so smart. Yeah. Like they just combined your resources into one kind of juice and manage that.
It's all juice, baby. It's all juice.
I got some gameplay stuff I want to hit on too, especially, and I think I assume this is going to change slightly as we move further into the game, and I'm not too far, so it's hard to say, but something that struck me at the beginning of this game was how simple the combat felt. Mostly, and when I say simple, I mean your tool set feels simple. It's very limited. You've got your nail and you've got your jump at the beginning. You don't have a parry at the beginning. You don't have a projectile. That's really it. And at first, I was almost felt a little constricted because I think in these types of games and in many games, I like having options for approaching combat. And you just don't have that at the start of this game. And even, I think I'm maybe 6 hours in at this point. I wouldn't say that my repertoire has expanded very much. It's still simple. I think the limitation of the tool set they give you has actually become really fun for me to engage with. Like I generally have like an instinct on how to approach enemies. I feel like I know each enemy's behavior a lot better than I do in a lot of games because I don't have, this crazy tool set to at any point just decide, all right, I'm just going to actually smash this button outside of the projectile and be rid of you. And I've really enjoyed that. Whether it's something as simple as like the little depressed bugs that if you hit, then they start to run at you, or if it's the guys who jump. We're talking about some of the most simple, earliest enemies. But yeah, I think the limitation of this combat is it feels like a strength to me so far, once I gave it a chance.
Yeah, giving it a chance. That's kind of my MO, trusting that the game has more in store, and it already does in the couple episodes of content we've done so far. The progression of abilities makes it expands the way you're able to play, like McCollar was saying, in a satisfying way to me. I really like as we get to dash or shoot the projectile, it makes the game more fun.
Juice.
Yeah.
Shoot the juice.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I think these games sort of live and die on their pacing in that regard. Like, how quickly am I getting new abilities to hold my interest and to keep me feeling like I'm progressing? You know, like, and what are these abilities? Are they fun to in the hands? You know, I think this game really nails that across the board. Well, I mean, pun definitely intended. Come on, folks. What are we not comedians? Okay. Let's what else? Oh, okay, you were talking about combat, Connor, for a bit. Patterns. That's another thing. You know, everything is about patterns. Specific, especially bosses. You're going to want to get to know their animations. Luckily for us, this game animates beautifully, so it's very easy to tell. But it does take a few tries and a few boss runs to kind of figure that out. And that can be frustrating because you can't really brute force your way through the game. You do have to engage with its systems. So if you're used to other games maybe being a little bit gentler with you, this is not that game.
You know what else? Sorry, go for it.
Each of those boss runs has such a high cost because you're dying and getting sent back that you will find yourself. That is a frustration I have with that game, that it very quickly becomes like, all right, I kind of like this. Like getting sent so far back to your last bench, just to have another shot at the boss who is gonna do the same one-shot kill attack that broke me last time. Fun.
Okay, I'm going to bring up a word right now that I feel like has been just overused so much recently, and just talking about TV shows and games.
New York is like a character. Yeah,
the word is lore. How do you guys like your lore?
How do we like it?
Yeah, how do you take your lore? Milk and sugar?
Nick?
This is a difficult question. Can you
no beef?
Can you give me some more parameters on the question?
I think kind of what I'm asking is, like, you know, some people like games, they like their video games just in the hands. What am I doing with Mario? I don't care why these Goombas are here. I don't care. Did Bowser hire them? I don't care. You know, and then some people really, I think, love this sort of deep high fantasy or high sci-fi related like lore dump. So like Mass Effect, right? You can sort of not engage with a lot of the lore, or you can read like a whole book's worth of lore. So what do you think, Nick? What's up? What's your feeling on this?
I like to learn as I progress through a game. If something like this or Undertale is purposely very mysterious from the jump, a lot of the time I'm very willing to just go along for the ride and not try to learn too much too quickly. BioShock is a good example of this, where it walks you through, it drip feeds you as you need to learn information. I will contrast that though with, say, a Baldur's Gate, where I really started to learn the lore of D&D through that game, and at a certain point in Baldur's Gate, I'm like, okay, I got to go on the Forgotten Realms wiki and learn everything about deep gnomes that I can. But in a game like this, I won't do that.
Oh, you won't do that with this?
No, because I want to beat the game or get to the story point where they explain it first. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be a Wikipedia reading the plot summary of
Totally.
challengers before I see it.
Yeah. So, but this is something that, like, for the right franchise, you are interested in. You like to kind of dive in. What about the rest of you guys?
I guess I did scroll through the Wikipedia of challengers to figure out what the ball meant inside the tennis racket.
Uh-huh.
Besides that, well, I won't get into it. I don't want to
Okay.
spoil it for listeners. But in terms of lore, I think I'm with you, Nick. I think if the storytelling in the game is kind of like unraveling as you progress, that's the kind of way I want to experience it. I don't want to stray too far ahead. Although I guess I'm going to give you your kudos twice. I like that you're kind of guiding us with just enough information of what to do. And it's not really spoiling much, especially I'll say in the next one, I'll talk about more about on that. But yeah, I think I'm just along for the ride. That's how I like my lore.
Yeah. Connor, McCall, are you guys ever
I
go
think
do lore stuff?
I think I kind of fall similarly in line with July as well. It depends on the game. Sometimes I have no interest, and other times I want to know as much as possible. And I think in a game like this, I kind of like I did with when I played through Tears of the Kingdom, is that I try to ingest like what feels like a balanced amount of lore and information as I progress through the game itself. So I'm also not looking anything up. I've dipped into the bestiary a little bit, sometimes just to find names of these enemies that you fight. And those, so far, I haven't like had any like big revelations there. But yeah, more of just like a kind of steady as I go.
Yeah, McCullough, you're a big writer guy. You love storytelling. How do you like this style of storytelling? This sort of drip fed, little clues here and there scattered, not really a straightforward act structure.
I think this story structure for a story like Hollow Knight works really well because it's ultimately a pretty simple story. I think about a game that Connor drunkenly referred to as a Metroidvania, Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Where like
I stand by it.
I think you're right. It's like a big bombastic story with big twists and big turns, and we need to see those. Like that story is told in cutscenes and needs to be told in cutscenes. This game, I don't know what a cutscene would look like. Like, I guess they could tell us what happened to the city of Hollowness, but I don't think that would have resonated as much. A game that I think I personally would have liked a little more, like that kind of tells its story this way, is Elden Ring. Like Elden Ring does have this big, complicated story, and it's told to you in this Hollow Knight method of subtly telling you things as you play the game. I could have used a few more cutscenes. I was kind of lost in what was going on in Elden Ring. It feels like you've got to find the right method to tell the story that you're telling, and this game is like gameplay focused and vibe focused, and not surprise Colonel Campbell is working with the enemy focused. Mm-hmm. So it fits the game really well.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of, this sort of backwards way of telling, your story, especially, McCullough, if the story ends up being even more on the simpler side, that's even better, because then it's like you're unraveling a mystery into kind of a very simple, tale of the heart or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's something kind of neat about that. I've always enjoyed the Souls games. I'll keep singing their praises forever. I just love, burying your story in item descriptions just feels like such a dirty move, but I just like, but there's something about it that just feels great. And like, and also the idea that, they put a lot of thought into, okay, you're going to get into an area. You may not notice it, but if you look around, you can start to piece together things on your own through investigating it just visually. I think I just like that there's somebody out there who cares enough to do that level of attention to detail on things. Okay, so that we covered the vibe, the gameplay, the story a little bit. what do you say we jump into what we do in this very first episode? So
Let's hit it.
let's hit it. You are greeted with a quote at the very beginning of the game. It says, "In wilds beyond they speak your name with reverence and regret, for none could tame our savage souls, yet you the challenge met. Under palest watch you taught, we changed, base instincts were redeemed, a world you gave to bug and beast as they had never dreamed." From... And I'm thinking this is going to be from like an H.P. Lovecraft or like an author. No, it's from somebody in the game said this.
The Elder Bug.
Yeah, from Elegy for Hollow Nest by Manamon the Teacher.
I'm going to say this. I do not mind that at all.
I love it.
I'm happy for them to ground their poetry in themselves as opposed to like, what are they going to do? Drag Alice in Wonderland out for the 12 millionth time?
Yeah.
Fucking Yates bullshit. No.
Ugh.
Yeah, or the Little Mermaid or something.
Yeah. I glanced at it and jotted down that like I do want more games to open with poems. But even hearing that poem now, it's kind of got a Western vibe to it. It's got this like the land wasn't settled. It was savage and wild, and you came along and saved it for us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I like that.
An aspect I haven't thought about.
So
Until I said it.
immediately after this quote, you actually are presented with a cutscene. One of the very, very few cutscenes in the game. The sort of opening cutscene that it's one of those kind of great, like, doesn't mean anything to you at all now, but in retrospect, if you go back and watch it after you've played the game, might mean something to you.
Ooh.
You know what it reminded me of? Rock Bottom and SpongeBob.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I see that.
Exactly what
I
you're
totally
talking
see
about.
that.
Absolutely.
Jeremy, are you too old for SpongeBob?
Yeah. you
No,
might
no,
be
no,
too
no.
old.
I saw that. That's the guy. That's the guy who's a yellow square, right?
That
Well, he's
is
a
the guy who's
sponge.
the yellow square.
It's just
It's in his name.
close.
Okay,
I
so
had a huge fight with my friend before we could read, where he was insisting that it was SpongeBob SquarePants, like he would explode, and I was like, "No, it's SpongeBob," and he didn't believe me. I'm still mad at him.
So, you are like just sort of walking around, like when it shows your character for the first time, you're like under like this cool looking Tim Burton-y street light thing, and everything's very like what would you say, like the it all looks like they're coils and like the dead skin from like shed from other bugs, and like what is all that like fossilized thing? Everything's very-
Exoskeletons.
exoskeletal.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's sort of the vibe. Yeah, so then your character shows up with, it's called a nail, I guess, but it just looks like a little sword.
That's a sword, dude. What are we
Cloud
doing?
style on the back, looking down at a big old city. You jump what looks like to your death, but nope. Your knees are fine.
And
No
just
fall
so
damage in this one, baby.
nonchalant about it. Like,
Mm,
I rewatched this morning as I, played 20 minutes into the opening again. And he really just so unceremoniously just springs off and flies down there.
yeah,
It's cool. It's like
It is cool.
it's like anime.
it is kind of like anime if you think about it.
It's sort of like the anime SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah.
Kinda.
That's
yellow
not the
square.
worst way to describe this game. As I'm thinking about it.
There's a cool thing too they do that I like, just as the little flavoring, which is like as you're running around the first area, that's when the credits scroll happens. Like they're telling you like
I
who's
love
worked
that.
on the game and whatever. It's just like it feels very classy to do it that way. It's not wasting any of your time. You get to play as it's telling you.
Another thing I would have loved is if you can interact with the names. Kinda
Okay, like Super Smash style.
Smash Brothers,
yeah. Yeah, I would have liked that too, I guess. So yeah, you're able to kind of run around this first section. Connor McCabe, walk us through it. What is it like to walk around what is called King's Pass?
This is very much your classic introductory area where the game is giving you little corridors, little sections to learn how things work in the game. It gives you the opportunity to, when you reach what seems like a dead end, to use your nail and slash through what becomes an opening. It gives you the chance in, very simple parameters to interact with enemies and hit them and to understand what it feels like to get hit. So this is something I think this game does well is each time I get struck, I feel that impact in my soul.
Yeah.
And I think the game does that by, of course, not only taking one of your little health points away visually, but the sound of the world completely changes, and it really gives you like urgency to this. To each hit feels like just devastating.
It feels like death. I feel like a lot of games will do like what the death animation does when you run out of health. I'll get hit once and assume that was it for me.
Yes. And so, there's plenty of little things like that happen. But essentially, King's Path, Jeremy, just gives you the opportunity to, in a very linear way, learn how a few of the simple mechanics work in this game and get to your next destination. That's like pretty much what I felt like this morning replaying it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, and there is one notable thing I think going through this that I'm noticing now is like I'm watching a video of it play in front of me. There is like one sign posting that will tell you kind of an instruction. It'll say how to heal, basically.
Yes,
which is kind of weird to me. It's like an in-universe sign posting, which that doesn't happen a lot in the rest of the game, but it happens here sort of right away.
And it specifically like calls out like this is only for higher beings. Like it within the universe has found a way to address you, the player, like in a way that I remember the first time playing this game was really off-put. I was like, am I gonna have to fight higher beings? What are you talking about? Now I see it's just them telling me, hey, here's how you heal.
Yeah. You'll also find at some point these blue like butterfly areas that are like these little. Basically, there's like little plants or weeds or something that when you strike them and you absorb their material, they give you extra damage points, like a almost what do we call that? A shield or something.
Yeah, it's like an additional health point.
Yeah.
Which I like when I saw that again this morning, I was like, I don't remember seeing this ever again in the first two episodes, but I'm sure it's around. I just missed it.
Yeah,
they're pretty hidden.
I found it once and I lost it during a boss fight and I never saw it again.
Oh no.
yeah. They're all over the place. One thing we didn't talk about in the mechanics or the gameplay of this. There's actually two things I just want to touch on really quickly.
Yeah.
Because we do pick one up, I think, here right away. There's something in this game called charms. Charms are basically how you spec your character. And you can you can remove them, you can add more, and there are like vital things in these charms too. Everything from like different move sets to like weird I'm gonna get hit, which means my whole body becomes like spikes shoot out of it to like hurt enemies around me. There's like all kinds of really cool stuff you can engage with. So always be looking at your charms, always be looking at sort of like how you can move things around. It could totally make or break certain boss fights. The other thing was the map. So we don't have a map yet. We won't get a map here for a second, but you can at some point purchase icons to show up on your map using Geo, and if you want to know where all of these little blue shield guys are hidden, there is an icon you can buy for that too.
That's what all my money went to right at the top.
Yep.
Yeah, just buy
Loaded
everything.
up my map.
Yeah, you got to have the whole map unlocked because otherwise you don't know where a freaking
And the compass too.
And the compass.
This is very illuminating for me. If you buy those icons, do they just automatically show up on the map, or do you have to place them yourself?
They automatically show.
Okay.
But you do have to find them first.
Yes, once you find them.
Got it.
Yeah.
I was confused by that, and I didn't know what to spend my money on.
Just like you can't really go wrong necessarily.
I think
I was scared.
Because I was feeling so lost for so much of this, despite continuing to just push forward. As soon as I found that was what I was yearning for. I know we're getting a little ahead, but as soon as I had that chance, I did the same thing as McCollar.
Yeah. You run into another signpost along the way here through King's Pass. It says, "Higher beings, these words are for you alone. Within our lands, do not hide your true form. Let all bask in your majesty, for only this kingdom could produce one such as you." What does it mean?
I'm building a theory, folks. I'm building
Yeah.
a theory.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then right next to that, you'll find Fury of the Fallen, which is a charm. Yeah. This charm, let's see, equip the activate charm.
Is that the one that gives you more power if you're close to death?
Yes, I think that's
Okay.
Or yeah. I don't know.
I'll pull up. I got my Switch open. I'll take a look.
If you want to take a look at what that exactly that does. I don't know if I had this equipped or have this equipped very long, but okay, great. So King's Pass is also very, very short. So we kind of just blow through that, and then we get into our very first little town here called Dirtmouth, the Fading Town. Dirtmouth is effectively going to be your hub for the game. This is where you will return again and again and again to talk to different NPCs you've met throughout the world. You're going to buy things from different shops that open up. It's really cool. I love games like Dark Cloud did this back in the day, or like just where you find people that unlocks more of your town as you go.
Starts to populate. It kind of feels like your progression, is like opening the world up a bit, or not opening the world up, but like kind of reviving this little village.
Yeah,
sort of
bringing life back to the world.
It feels very safe in here too. Like that's, you know what I mean? You kind of feel like, oh, when you're back in here, like, you can kind of rest for a second, you kind of breathe. Mm-hmm. You meet somebody right away called the Elder Bug. July, tell me about the Elder Bug.
I think real quick, I think I missed that first charm you talked about. I don't have it in my inventory.
As I checked, so did I.
Oh, well, that just means whatever it does is not vital.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And, if you're ever worried about, oh no, I missed this thing, I'll never come back here again, buddy, you're going back.
Yeah.
You're going back there.
You'll be back.
Yeah.
What? Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that? Where is that? Where is that located? Can I actually go back there?
Not. I think because you'd have to jump off of a cliff.
Yeah. Right.
So you can't go back there yet.
Okay.
You'll go back there much later.
All
Yeah.
Right, fair enough.
One thing about these games, like most, probably actually all Metroidvanias, is interconnected map.
Yes.
Meaning that everything connects back in on itself. There's,
yes, I knew that.
I don't think there's anywhere in this game that you get warped to that's different.
I see. Okay, Elderbug. I have a theory about Elderbug.
Okay.
He speaks in sort of cryptic terms, like a lot of the different NPCs you encounter, but here's my theory. Elderbug is you.
Whoa.
But
that is interesting. He does kind of look like you.
I mean, yeah, it kind of looks like you.
And
a little taller, a little older.
And yeah, there are a couple of guys around that do look like you, but not everybody. So that does mean something, I think. Yeah.
Or maybe he's family. I don't know.
Maybe he's your papa.
Yeah.
I think I'm ready to drop my big narrative theory on this game, because what Elderbug says here is the saddest thing I've ever experienced. He talks about how this town has fallen quiet. And then at the end, he says, perhaps dreams aren't such great things after all. Folks, I think this might be a critique of colonialism and Western expansion. Nick alluded to it. I was like, oh, that sounds like a Western. That sounds like, thank God we had you to come tame the savage lands. And look what this taming has done. Jeremy, you just mentioned a placard that says something along the lines of only a place like this could have made someone like you. So much of the Western myth is built on these men who are so mad that only they can tame the lands. And that's why they ride off into the sunset, because they're not allowed to live in the society. They're the man who builds a society is not allowed to stay in it. And then we come and find that this town that's built on the reputation and the greatness of this man who tamed the lands has fallen into disrepair. Perhaps this man's dreams actually caused a desolation and
Smoke.
a smog, and that's why smog isn't
Perhaps
here.
of smog, perhaps.
It does
Alright.
look very smoggy at times, especially later on.
That's true.
That is, yeah. Even right now, there's some smog.
Yes.
I love that theory, McCaller. I buy it. I buy it right away. Just only because there's definitely this idea that's like there's something being subverted here, right? Like darkness to our eyes looks one way, but we're kind of getting a lot of clues that, but actually no dreams. The light. There's something weird about this light. We don't like it. Okay.
Let's all commit to watching Once Upon a Time in the West before our next record.
I would just hang on to those ideas because I think, what looks one way to us may not feel or look that way to these people, these bug
Very
people.
yin and yang.
Mm-hmm.
You guys played the game Braid before?
Yes. Love
It's an
Braid.
indie darling that has a little bit of a twist on who you think you are.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to make a prediction. I don't think there's anything like that in this game. I think that the story is very literal and we're taking it exactly as it's meant to be played. You're a little bug and you slash stuff with your sword. That's my prediction.
Okay.
And who knows? Maybe both can be right. Okay,
I have another
so
prediction. I have another prediction.
yes, please.
We are in those like ant farms. You know what I'm talking about?
From
Uh-huh.
Ants or Bug's Life?
From either. I've never seen any of those, but like in real life, I'm talking about, those ant farms.
You're talking like the two panes of glass, and you can
Yes.
see the
Yeah,
little
yeah, yeah,
tunnels.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's it's gonna, at the end, it's gonna, cut away and we're gonna see the full picture
Mhm.
of our hero of the night. inside
Orson
the
Welles will be holding it
Yes.
And
and he drops it.
and drops it.
Are you talking about regular ant farms or the alien kind?
The alien ant farm.
Can I make a prediction really quick?
Yes.
My prediction is that at the end of this game, we're going to discover that this was all just taking place in a dream of one of the ducks that Tony Soprano has in his pool.
Oh man.
Wow.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Dutch, they flew away.
Okay, so you can't spend very long in this town. You've got to move on. There's not much to do here.
Yeah.
Jeremy, did you have a prediction?
I kind of got lost in what we were predicting exactly, like the end,
The
of,
end
the
of the game. Then
Oh,
What
well,
it's
I
about.
played it, but I guess I'll predict that. Yeah, I predict that this is that you've been playing actually as Guiji this whole time, and that
Okay.
this is actually
Wow.
this is kind of. Yeah, the camera does a pullback thing. I'm gonna take that because I do
Sure.
like that camera pulls back
Yeah.
thing. And this is Luigi's dream.
This is the multiplayer mode
Yeah,
of
right.
Luigi's Mansion 3.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like gooey duck, like that spelling GEO. G-O-E-G. That's what you're going for.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Okay, so let's get down into what's called the Forgotten Crossroads. This is like your what is it? Like Green Hill Zone of this game. It is like a relatively easier, but it's going to test you in a bunch of different ways. If you go right from falling down into its depths, you will meet another NPC named Quirrell. Did anybody run into Quirrell? He's like
It's a coral.
he's like a bug with a sword. He's another kind of warrior bug.
I missed this guy.
I miss this guy too.
but I made
Professor
it to this
Quirrell.
area later and he wasn't
Yeah.
there.
He's in front of the big black egg.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was there later. I don't think I I went a different direction, I think, and then when I came back, he wasn't there, and then I saw a quick little recap, walkthrough thing.
Yeah.
And
He
that's
says you're
when
a short one, but you've got a strong look about you.
That's what he says.
Yeah, he calls you a short king.
Wow. Okay.
He
Yeah.
says that he tells you that he's obsessed with like discovery or like research or something like that. Like he's while exploring, or he's checking out this black egg, like Jeremy said, and he's definitely. I think we're gonna keep encountering him, like finding mysteries or something like that.
Yeah, the black egg is also housed inside of a big, giant, like dome thing, ominous looking dome.
Which they show you in the opening cutscene.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I noticed that this time.
I jotted that too. Yeah, that's our Ridley, Kraid, and Fantoon. These are the 3 bosses we are going to hunt through this world.
Whoa,
That's
find.
exciting.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you knew that or not. Yeah,
that
sorry.
is that.
I guess
yeah.
that's kind of a spoiler.
Well, I think everyone here has. Yeah, I think everyone here knows.
Yeah, I think that's what they're communicating, but maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe that's not a.
Maybe you don't know that. You don't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't know that. It's okay. It's
right.
yeah.
That blows up the Tony Soprano theory.
If you keep going right, you will encounter your first like freak, like absolute freak guy, which I love that it doesn't take a lot of time to get to like the first big old freak guy.
Is that the big husky boy? That big circle
he's
boy?
a big husky circle, and he's smashing his hammer on the ground.
The
and
Husk Guard.
The Husk Guard, he looks he's freaking ripped.
Yes.
He is absolutely juicing. And he's hiding a baby worm. Now,
so scared.
if you do go get this baby worm first, I don't think you will get the introduction to the worm properly, which I think I always like to go see him first because he's crying. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yes, crying worm. Yes.
Yeah, if you go all the way left, I think it's just completely, horizontal to the left. You will get into a big room where it's like a shitload of like little, what are they?
like they're like
eggs?
punctured eggs.
Yeah, punctured eggs. And there's just
Like a
there's
picture of whack-a-mole.
Yeah, there's like
Yeah.
a worm who's just crying. Boo-hoo. And he doesn't talk to you or anything, but yeah, one of the many side quests you can do in this game is rescue these little worm fellas, and they show up there. And every time you go back, he'll give you a bunch of money for bringing his worm babies back, and he gets happier and happier as
This is baby's return.
This is,
We're calling them worms, but they're more like caterpillars, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, that's probably
Okay. Just making sure we're talking about the same thing. It's kind of greenish. Sometimes
Green.
they're in little glass cases.
Yeah,
Like the grubs that Timon and Pumbaa eat.
yeah, that is really a great
Yep.
Great comparison.
comparison. Yeah, they are like the grubs Timon and Pumbaa eat. They're also if you're ever in like a whatever, like a big area, and you hear them crying, that means there's one around. That's your big clue. It's audibly they'll be crying. You can't go further right, so you're gonna have to go left. You can at some point like jump down into a little area that's blocked off from you. It's gated. You can't get around there yet. But so clearly it wants to funnel you to the left more and more and more. Eventually you'll get to this huge sort of vertical space that really, I mean, you probably spend a lot of time fighting guys all the way down it. You don't actually need to do that. You just have to keep going down. Just go down, down,
That's what
down.
I just kept falling.
Yeah, just fall all the way down, and eventually you'll meet somebody named Cornifer.
My man.
My man Cornifer, this guy frickin' rocks. I love his like weird little nose thing that goes all the kind of like hangs down. Yeah,
Bro.
yeah, he's got a little humming thing he does.
You can sometimes I missed this the first time. but you can get a little hint of where this guy's going to be. You'll hear that humming, but you'll also see little papers scattered on the way to him.
Yes.
Yeah.
The papers are and I didn't know that my first playthrough. That was something that I
didn't either.
It was very obvious to me this time where I was like, oh, yeah, that's when you see those, follow them because that means there's a map nearby.
The Lost Crown will borrow this when it comes to the save points where you save at these yak trees in the Lost Crown, and you'll have like some of golden leaves will be sort of blowing in the wind in the direction of it, which, different, not a save point here or a healing station, but similar thing.
Leading you to the thing you pretty much need to progress.
Yeah.
And it is hard to progress in this game without maps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, most areas I get into, I have anxiety until I find it.
Yeah.
And this game does something really smart with the map. Like you just hold your L1 button and he like whips it out and you see your character holding it and you can walk around in the same way that you would in real life if you were searching your map. You can get hit.
Yeah.
Far Cry 2 had a very similar feature to this. I really liked that game. It's one of my favorite Metroidvanias.
Nice.
I'm just picturing like a giant frame piece of artwork of Cornifer in your living room.
Oh, I would love nothing more. Also, Cornifer, kind of a wife guy, we find out later.
Yeah.
Loves his wife. His wife is back at home. Ba-ba-da-da. She's got the other maps that you can buy. If you miss a map in an area, you can go buy one from her later. Or that's where you buy all the pins. Anyway, so Forgotten Crossroads, like every area in this game, is a bit of a maze, and you'll be sort of circumventing it. And one thing that's kind of cool is like the map only shows you so much of what's going on, and if you explore more, every time you rest at a bench, it will draw the rest of that part out. Of the map.
You do have to purchase a quill to do that first, I believe.
Okay. Yes. And is that from her? That is.
Yes,
from
it's
her.
from
That's
from
from
his wife. Yeah.
Pompanada.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm gonna kind of just skip a lot of the like traveling around and pushing on the edges of the map to get right to our first boss.
Talk about. Okay.
Well, if there's anything you want to talk about in terms of like
No,
navigating this area, I mean. Yes, acid lakes, you'll see spikes everywhere. Eventually we'll run into these little flies that have these orange pustules that'll burn you.
There's one thing I did want to mention is something that I didn't realize immediately. You can like hold down, I don't know if you guys noticed this. You can hold down and it'll move the camera so you can see what's below you.
I didn't know that my first whole playthrough either, and I found that out when I was playing through this.
There's one puzzle that is kind of the only time that a non-in-universe instruction happens where it's just like, you got to know this if you're in this room, like hold down or you won't see these spikes.
Got it.
Oh yeah. There are some very claustrophobic areas of this game that really benefit from you utilizing that.
The only thing I want to say is just because this is the first area we're really moving in and feel like getting actually into the game is that I will often too just like kind of avoid enemies if I can, but I'm always really conscious of my juice and my health. So if there are enemies that I, know their patterns and feel comfortable fighting them, I'll go out of my way to get hits or even destroy them to fill up my health and then fill up my juice because I like to be prepared and don't want to be caught in a situation where I need either of those things and I don't have them.
I totally agree with you, and I feel like my panic mode starts to set in when I get to like 2 or 3 health points, especially in a boss fight. I try to always have 5 going into a big encounter.
Yeah, that's really smart. Yeah, you want to have as much soul as possible and as much health as possible when doing anything.
We call it juice here, Jeremy.
Yeah, you're right, juice.
Lizzo style.
Yes. Okay. Let's talk about our first boss here. This boss is, I think you approach this. Okay, it's called the Gru's Mother. I think
famously from Despicable Me.
Right, Gru's mother.
The mother.
Yes, I knew she looked familiar.
Yeah, she looks very familiar. I think you approach this boss in a very peculiar way. This thing is just on a hot chill, sleeping away, and you come up and whack it in the face with your dang nail. So rude. And it wakes this thing up. And July Diaz, what happens when you wake up the Gru's mother?
She attacks you.
Yeah.
And she's flying around, and like a lot of these boss encounters, you're kind of like trapped in this little arena. Gives you a little boundaries, and I didn't find this too much of a difficult fight. I actually encountered this secondly to the other boss in this area.
Oh.
It was quite a surprise.
I think you can. So you say you fought her second?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely possible. I was gonna say, like, to my surprise, I actually found all of this stuff that we do in this episode specifically not hard at all. Like, to me, it was all just I'm playing a video game. This wasn't like especially
I'm playing a game.
Yeah, especially this boss. It was like, there's a pattern here, and I guess you could get killed to this, but you would have to kind of like.
But not me. I'm playing a game.
Yeah, you kind of have to really fuck up a bunch. Now, one thing, as soon as the Gru's mother dies, and this is something to consider about the rest of the bosses too. There will be a thing that happens maybe right after, which is like an old Castlevania trick where it's like suddenly all these bugs explode out of her body, and then you have to fight all of these like littler versions of her. I think a lot of bosses do have that kind of trick where there will be some death throw.
Even the next one, which was very interesting.
That's that. Yes. So if you're a teabag gamer, you're playing your Call of Duty style, and you beat the boss, and you want to just keep standing over it and slashing, it's probably going to come back to bite you.
This game is absolutely a critique of Call of Duty style gaming as well.
And also a critique of teabagging.
For sure.
Which is something I don't like about it.
Yeah. Did we describe what Gru's mother looks like? She's like a big fly with a similar mask face as the knight, right?
Yeah. And just black holes for eyes.
Yeah. And like almost an elephant.
A snout or trunk.
Trunk.
Yeah.
When she explodes, she's full of minions.
Yeah, little gruisers, as they're called.
Yes. They're saying banana, banana, banana.
Bidoo. Pompado.
Very good.
I have a sneeze coming on. Hold on.
You see you're fighting it right now.
Hold for sneeze.
Okay, no, I think it passed. All right. Okay, the next thing that you're going to want to do in this area, if you haven't already, is go take a look at like the big tram. There's like a big, what I would describe as a train or a tram, and you can't do anything with it yet, but you will be mobilizing that thing obviously a little bit later. So it's something to keep in the back of your brain. You definitely want to at least go to that area so that you can see it on your map for later when you pick up an item that could potentially help you out with that.
There's nothing. There's not going to be anything. That's my prediction.
It's decoy. Eventually you'll keep making your way through the forgotten crossroads, and you'll find another friend here a little bit later. And this friend has a very practical use. There's a toll machine with a symbol of a stag. You'll feed the toll machine 50 geo, and it will pop out a bell. You'll ring the bell, and somebody comes to meet you. His name is the Last Stag, and he's basically a big horse, right?
I freaking love this guy. Horse that can talk to you.
Yeah.
He has a great animation of him like running up through the tunnel.
It's so good.
It's very satisfying. Oh, I like him.
It works in conjunction with the controller vibrating. Like, I like to feel him coming.
Clip that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. And that's where I'll leave that sentence.
Yeah, great. Yeah, absolutely.
Real quick, we did find another friend immediately after the Gru's mother encounter, Sly.
Yes, that is true. We do meet Sly. July, why don't you tell us a little bit about Sly?
He's sort of a boxer guy.
Yeah.
Now lives in this town, and he's sort of like a classic looking fly. So I guess
Big eyes.
Yeah, big eyes.
He's got like an orange mist going on over his head, which I don't know if that means he's stinky.
He's a stinky fly. Sly's a stinky fly.
Yeah.
You say hi to Sly the fly, and then he goes bye-bye back up to the top, and then he starts selling you other charms and other little knickknacks.
Yeah, I guess maybe the implication is that he got stuck down here a little bit. He was he also mentions to somebody named Oro that he was working with to some effect, maybe in the past. But yeah, Sly is great because Sly, once you meet him for the first time, he'll show up back at Dirtmouth, and you can start buying very useful tools like charms and keys and rancid eggs and stuff that you might need later.
Yes.
But he great. Okay. The last stag, just to finish his whole thing up, he's basically your your warp whistle or whatever. He'll get you he's your fast travel guy.
Yes.
And it's kind of, there's not a ton of these around, these stations. There may be one or two that I've sort of discovered in each area, if not one, just the one. But it is a nice way to zip back and forth between areas if you'd like to, because there's not a lot of warp points in this game.
Yeah, I would actually, okay, and I mean, look, I love this game more than anybody. I do think this might be a small critique I have of it, is that I just kind of wished, A, there were more of these, B, you could just warp to them at some point, like you unlocked a way to do it. I think for the majority of the game, you're going to be engaging with the last stag to get around places.
Cool. I will say the way I used it is less like I wanted to get to them, and more when I found them, it was my chance to bop right back up to the surface and see what had changed in the stores or if I had any money. So
yeah,
that's pretty much how I used it too.
I think that's what it wants you to do. Is that it wants this to be like a convenient surprise, not so much like you're relying on it to get around, because the game does give you a lot of tools to navigate pretty quickly through places. Anyway, okay, so you can go back up to the top and then come right back down if you please. But if you continue to make your way through the Forgotten Crossroads more and more, eventually you will come up on your first, I would say, legacy boss arena. You will be challenged by the False Knight, who is an ogre looking guy with a big spike hammer ball thing. Nick Costanza, tell me a little bit about the False Knight. Who is this guy, and what the hell does he want?
Freaking love the look of this guy. First off, I feel like you get a little tease with the big guy with the club, and then this guy's like an even bigger guy, and he's got a big spiky helmet. He's so cool. And by the time I got to this boss, I was ready for him. So you're jumping around, you're fighting him, knocking him down, and then something weird happens. You knock him to the ground. He's got a little baby face that pops out. And didn't stop me. I just wailed on him.
Yeah.
So his face pops through his mask, right? Is that how you describe it?
Yeah.
It's really freaky looking.
It's almost like the pressure from you banging on him makes his head pop out of his face.
Yeah.
And he looks nice. He looks like a friend.
Mm-hmm.
He does. He's much more menacing with this armor enshrouding him. But you just wail on him.
Yeah, He looks
Oh,
he looks
fool.
really upset too when you his face pops out of his face. Yeah, this guy can be tough. I think I died on him.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah,
first
at
time.
least a few times for me.
Yeah. But
I beat him first try. I'm
did you
not
really?
even kidding. Yeah, I did.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
sick, dude.
I
Good for
think I
you.
did too.
This will be the last boss I beat first try.
Yeah.
Kind of it's a good test of combat. I think he's got a move where he bounces around a bunch. You got to watch out for his big honker falling on you.
Flip that.
Flip that.
And he's also got that move where he smashes on either side of him really quick. He leaves this gap when I was rewatching this fight today, and he leaves a little gap between him and the point of where his weapon hits, and I wonder if you could just kind of camp there while he goes through that motion, because you see the windup. But overall, I thought it was a really fun sort of like boss fight that you get here, a traditional one. And that's kind of it. But I love, he's controlled by a maggot, which just kind of like the Gru's mother. It's like, oh wait, is she even the Gru's mother, or is she controlled by all her little baby maggot things? It's a lot of like.
And when you become a
unsettling.
mother, you are essentially living for your children. So
That's true.
So
That is
wow.
absolutely true, I think.
It's an interesting point you bring up, though, Connor, because this is where I'm starting to develop a theory.
The Men in Black
because
theory.
You got a little spirit in you, too. Are you even really the knight that we're seeing?
It's a good question.
Yeah, like are we in general living behind our eyes? You know?
I
Do
know.
we all
Where
wear
are
masks?
we? Where are we in here?
Yeah. Do we go through life wearing masks? Sort of like the classic drama and
Like Cuban
crying and
masks?
like Batman, is
Like Batman,
is this our
yes.
mask or is Bruce Wayne our mask?
exactly.
Ah.
Somebody stop me.
Yeah, somebody absolutely stop me.
No, somebody stop me.
Somebody stop my son.
Okay, so you beat the false knight. His he does this thing at the end where he will jump up and just drop his whole ass on the ground, and it craters in, and he falls to the floor below.
And you immediately ran to like be underneath this big gigantic.
I laid on the
Fuck,
ground
man.
face up.
Yeah,
Baby.
yeah. I was trying to get a look. I was trying to get a good look at what that might look like from that angle. And then so then you can wail on him some more. He's not a threat to you anymore. But yeah, his face will. I guess his body. If he's a maggot and that's his whole body, whatever, it'll flop out of his head and lay there for a minute. And then something even fucking weirder happens.
It
where,
caught me so off guard because I looked at my map immediately afterward and then go ahead.
you'll see what you'll notice is his weapon the whole time was actually another bug.
Gross.
Yeah.
And that little bug gets up, runs over to the maggot's head, and carries it away.
Oh, I didn't even do. I just immediately got scared and hit it, and it
You can hit
fell
it.
off
Yeah.
the side of the map.
Wow.
Yeah. Super weird. And that is where we are going to leave off for this episode. Folks, thank you so much for listening. We're going to go ahead and do a round of plugs before we get out of here. And and then we'll be back next week covering a little bit of a cleanup over here, but mostly Green Path and the fungal wastes. Nick Costanza, where can people find you?
Nick stands on social media, on Twitch, Reactivators Podcast. Check it out.
July Diaz.
It's a video games classic, roasted Mario, roasted Donkey Kong, video games comedy show episodes. That's it.
Michael McCollar.
I'm Secret Blimp on twitch.tv/Secret Blimp, Twitter @Secret Blimp, and youtube.com/@Secret Blimp.
Connor McCabe.
Thanks for listening to this series, whether you're a patron or you're on the free feed years in the future. Follow us everywhere at Super NPC Radio. Hit us up if you want to get in the Discord and have nice conversations with people. You can listen to my podcast, Call Me By Your Game, wherever you get yours. And that's it for me.
You can follow me on Twitter at Ocarina of Crime. Listen to my show, Video Games, a Comedy Show. We'll be back next week with more on Hollow Knight. Goodbye.